Growing up in a trailer park, it was 2017. I just decided I'm going to reach out to the owner of the mobile home park that I grew up in, have a conversation. We came to an agreement and I actually purchased the mobile home park that I grew up in.
Well, welcome everyone to the Salem Speakers Podcast. Today's guest has spent a decade helping business owners, sales professionals, and leaders build stronger businesses and better lives. Bradley Horner is a nationally recognized business coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and the first ever Ziglar Certified Master Coach. He's the creator of the Business Process Mastery Framework and has helped countless professionals turn chaos into clarity, overwhelm into systems, and potential into results. What caught my attention wasn't the coaching, it was truly his story. Because not many people can say they grew up in a mobile home park and years later came back with a powerful story that we're going to share with you later in this episode. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jacob. I appreciate you, brother. Nice intro, by the way, man. You said, look, that was it was better than I expected. Hopefully I can live up to that throughout the rest of my life, right?
Well, fair enough. You're just going to continue to make it better, right? That was the setup for where you're headed today. And I'm honored to have you on here. You've impacted my life over the last 3 years that you and I have been able to know each other. And I'm excited to share your story with our listeners today. And I want to go really all the way back to the beginning, to the early years, as we kind of fast forward through everything. So let's go to the early years. Like, what was life for you growing up? When you were young, what was that like? And what did you believe your future would look like?
Oh, man. I wasn't planned. I wasn't expected. And, to some people, I probably wasn't even wanted initially. But man, growing up, it was, you think about life in a trailer park. And I always say that my family, we had always had a very strong work ethic. But I can remember, those times when I seen the other kids having the name brand clothes and all the things that you would want as a kid. And for me, that wasn't an option. I had to work for the things that I wanted in life and things that I had to have at times. From a very early age, I was working in construction with my uncles, roofing houses, cutting grass, like any job that you think a kid could take on to make money, yeah. I did. But and looking back, I find, and here's what I think a lot of times that people look back on their lives, they look back on the early years without finding the gratitude in it. And I'm grateful for all those years because that taught me a work ethic. And truly, so many life lessons came out of my childhood, where some people could say, oh, well, your biological father wasn't in your life. And, ideal world, that would have been different. But, there's other men that stepped up to kind of fill that role, if you will. From, my stepdad, my grandfather, uncles. One thing that I talk about in my keynotes was a turning point in my life.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a turning point. It was in 5th grade, Mr. Keithley's class, my best friend, Jesse. I go to his house for the first time. And when I went to Jesse's house, I remember, we went completely the opposite side of the tracks and we're going up this ridge. There's trees, I get up to the top and there's all these beautiful houses. And it was the first time that I seen, and it was a paradigm shift for me, is what it was, is that I saw the life that my friend had, because Jesse's dad was a doctor. And I knew that at that point that a seed was planted in me that I wanted to, I'm going to pull on some of our Ziglar stuff, right? I wanted to be more, do more, and have more than what I currently had. And I do believe that moment going to Jesse's at the first time, like I said, that's why I talk about my keynote, that did create a paradigm shift that I said, look, how do I get it? And that set me on a path to, figuring out a way to get what I wanted in life.
Yeah, I love that, right? So this story, this was 5th grade. This was when you had that aha moment that there is more, that you can have more. And as you said, you can be more, do more, and have more. Mm-hmm. So now you got to start making some changes even at a young age to realize, okay, this isn't it. I can have more. Did you have, in that exact moment, as you start to transition, some limiting beliefs or anything that really actually held you back in those early moments on?
We get hit with limiting beliefs all the time.
That's right.
And I remember there were some families in my hometown. So I grew up in a small country town in Kentucky.
Yep.
And there were a couple families that they were wealthy. They were the wealthy families in the town. And I can remember people in my life saying, well, we can't do that because our last name isn't this and our last name isn't that. And just for those, just keeping the names there, but they would say the last names of those people. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to it. And I didn't know the quote at that point, but I know it now. It's the Henry Ford quote. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Right.
And I refused to take on that limiting belief. I said, you know what? There's a great big world out there, and I deserve to go out to be able to have as much that this world and this life that God has given us to take advantage of it.
That's right. Well, I love that. And I love that for you because now all the years later, we can bring this story full circle because there's so many of your successes I want to bring up. I want to talk about one of the coolest full circle moments that I've ever heard of in my entire life, which is you grew up in this mobile home park. Now you already kind of shared that big domino moment, that aha moment where it's like, okay, I too can have more. And then later in life, what happened with that mobile park? What is something that you did with that mobile home park that no one else maybe is even thinking of that might be living in a mobile home park right now, listening to this podcast?
And I love that you said somebody living it that may be there or whatever the situation is, that don't ever think that you need to learn how to step into the person that you want to become.
Yeah.
And you've got to get clarity on that person that you want to become. And I didn't think about all the impacts, but of what this decision made, which I'll share. But, I'm just giving that little plug as a way of hope and encouragement for somebody that may be listening to this. Don't have those limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
You need to say, hey, how can I go out and get the things in life that I want? But so going back to your question, it was 2017. I knew there was opportunity out there in the mobile home space, and I just decided I'm going to reach out to the owner of the mobile home park that I grew up in, have a conversation, and ultimately we came to an agreement, and I actually purchased the mobile home park that I grew up in.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you literally own the entire park, the entire mobile home park where you lived and you grew up.
Yes.
So does the story go deeper than that? Does it go deeper than just, hey, it was a phone call? Because now, you obviously needed to learn a thing or two about business and life and success and even finances. I'm assuming there was some kind of investment, whether you got it financed, whether you did, owner finance. I mean, can you walk us through that story a little bit deeper?
Well, okay, so yeah, I mean, I'd be glad to. And now there have been learning lessons along the way.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about all that. I didn't have these things that says, "Hey, this is holding me back." But I reached out to the owner, worked out an agreement. We had a down payment. Owner financed it for us for 20 years. We went back and forth on negotiations because I knew that the business, for me to purchase it, it had to cash flow.
Right.
Right? That was key. It's got to cash flow. And it was distress. So like we had opportunity to turn it around. He knew it was. So, just kind of going through that, went back and forth in negotiations, but it truly was, I didn't hold back. And I hear people sometimes in business, they say, well, I don't want to insult anybody. Look, when it comes to money and negotiations, that's what it is. It's a negotiation. If somebody gets their feelings hurt in business, then they're not there to make a deal.
Yeah.
But you've got to ask and say, hey, and I did. My ask was bold. We worked out the agreement, and they owner financed it. We gave them a down payment, and I'm still financing it. It's cash flowing
That's right.
and paying for kids' college.
I mean, that's it. I mean, there's so much depth of knowledge in that. And I was trying to pull that out, right? From, I've done some different real estate in my time. And as I get older, I'm hoping to do more, right? To see and step into, if you will. And it's like even the concept of owner finance, and when the opportunity appears, you figured out how to make it make sense for you. And I want to think about the moment that this thing closed, right? So you reached out, you had the conversation, you made it through the negotiations, you figured out what the cash down payment was going to be like, you figured out what the payment terms and what the balloon might look like, and you did all of that, all the due diligence, all the paperwork. It was a distressed situation, so hopefully you were able to get a little deal on it so you can improve it. All of it's said and done. You went through the hassle to get this deal done. You signed the documents. You are now the owner. You are now the proud owner of the mobile home park that you grew up and you essentially raised yourself out of and became something so much greater. What did that feel like emotionally the moment you signed the dotted line and you now own this thing?
It wasn't like, I wish I could say there was some big moment like, oh, but I mean, it was very transactional at that point. Like when I signed the papers, walked out of the attorney's office, shook hands. went out to the trailer park
Hmm.
and prayed.
Yeah.
I prayed over it and said, God, you've given this to me. And as a result, let me to be a good steward to help people.
I love that.
And, I mean, we had to get drugs out. We had to get certain things out. Certain people had to leave for that to turn around. Unfortunately, we tried to work with everybody that we could, but just how hard decisions had to be made. Just with any
Right.
business, difficult decisions have to be made. But I truly just said, thank you. It was gratitude, but then also let me be a good steward for what you've given me.
How much, and you've already alluded to it, so thank you for teeing me up well. How much has faith played a role in your success and in your life?
It's funny because I always look at every time that I tried to do something for money, it didn't work.
Hmm.
If my sole driver was just money, money, money to make Brad Horner wealthier, and there have been those times, full transparency,
Yeah.
that I've got caught up. And I think,
Yeah.
if everybody you talk to that's in business, they're going to say, hey, yeah, there was a time that I was just focused on money. And maybe for some people, be like, hey, that was my driver. I was focused on that. It worked for me. Great. Glad it did. But for me, it was something more that when I had to let go and let God and say,
Yeah.
look, I want to just go serve people. And that's in all of my business. The mobile home park, like we helped to provide home ownership. Somebody sat in my office and cried because we were able to provide home ownership for them to own one of the mobile homes that we renovated.
Yeah.
And, so that was a driving force. And the story of like when I left corporate America and went to in business for myself. And 6 months later, after I left, we thought my wife's job was secure, but we didn't, or hers wasn't. She lost her job 6 months after I
Yeah.
left to jump into building my own insurance business. And when she left, she came into my office and she was upset. I hugged her and she said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to have faith."
That's right.
And when we do that in our lives, God makes a way for us.
Pivotal role, essentially, right?
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That's
all
right.
his anyway. It's not ours.
That's right. All of it, even the breath in our lungs.
Amen.
Well, you became the first ever Ziglar Certified Master Coach, which is a massive accomplishment. We actually met through the Zig Ziglar organization in a roundabout way. I was in the Ziglar Legacy Certification Class 2, is how I actually got into Ziglar. We've obviously oversaw all of their marketing since 2014. My company has, and through all of that, we were able to meet. But you were the first one to go all the way, right? To complete everything needed. And so I'd love to first ask this question, which is, how did Zig Ziglar influence your life?
Well, I mean, it goes back. So early on, when I started in the insurance business, I was in Charleston, South Carolina. I didn't know anyone, and I start to work for a life insurance company selling life insurance. They said, "Hey, start a natural market." Well, I don't have one. Like all my
Yeah,
family's in Kentucky. And so I just go out, my process, 2010 5 2.
that's right.
And I just started to implement every single day. And along the way, while I was out doing my work, I'm listening to the Zig Ziglar stuff on sales and just planting those seeds into my mind. So that's where it started with Ziglar. And then, my story, like from there, I became rookie of the year with that insurance company, and then, went on to work corporate America with Fidelity Investments, then started my own property and casualty agency. But it's the property and casualty agency where I was building a business. I knew how to be a producer and I knew how to go out and build books of business. I didn't know how to run the business,
Hmm.
like all the stuff, like just the simple stuff, taxes, looking at P&Ls,
Yeah.
like all of those things. And then, I got to a point to where I was being overworked myself, the stress that I put on myself in a moment, probably one of the darkest moments of my life, which, it's the best and worst day of my life was September 12th, 2017, that I found myself just emotionally distraught, literally in tears. And all of a sudden, I thought about Zig Ziglar in those moments of despair. And I went back to those books, Born to Win. And then next thing you know, the algorithms work and like the Zig Ziglar stuff's popping up in my feed. And then I get involved in I'm going through their process again, right? The wheel of life. What are the things that I need to work on? And then from there, after kind of fast forwarding after I kind of fixed my stuff. It's the best way I'm going to put it.
Fair enough.
But then that led me back to Ziglar as a coach. And, and I love it that Tom Ziglar has picked up the torch, Ziggs. I mean, you got Tom's book right behind you, Choose to
That's
Win.
right.
I see it.
That's right.
And, that's started, I became his Choose to Win coach.
That's right.
And from there, that led into everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. We all have powerful mentors that influence us. And I love that you knew in that time when you were kind of in your darkest hour, if you will, and you turned to motivation, you turned to hope, you turned to encouragement, you allowed that to fuel you, to help you grow. And then once you recovered, if you will, you then invested even more so you could learn, be educated, and then give back to that next generation or just to the next person going through what you already walked. And I think that's a powerful tribute to everything else that you've done as well. Multiple businesses, multiple successes, but ultimately goes back to you love serving other people. And you've said that in other words on this podcast, which is anytime you've done anything with the motive of helping other people, you've been successful. And I love that about you. Why do you think so many people underestimate the value of mentorship?
I think there's multiple different reasons. I'll tell you, as a coach myself, which by the way, since 2017, I haven't went without a coach. Jacob, at one point, you were one of my coaches.
That's right.
And I tell this to people all the time that when you make an investment, so if you go buy a stock, you expect to get a rate of return on that.
That's right.
When you are wise enough to go out and invest in coaching and mentorship, you should expect to get a rate of return on that.
That's right.
And every single time I have gotten a rate of return. And I think what kind of holds people back is they think I can do it myself, or I can watch a YouTube video, or
Yeah.
I can do this or that. Nothing beats the accountability piece.
Yeah.
It's like with my inner circle, I am constantly like, hey, how can we add value to our members? How can we mastermind together? What training do you need? Is it sales? Is it process? Is it business readiness? Like, what is it that we can bring to the table? And a lot of times it just comes back to, hey, I'm be do's and haves. Who is going to keep me accountable to reaching those goals? And I think when people can push past maybe some ego there, thinking that I can do it on my own, because I can tell you, entrepreneurship is one of the loneliest worlds that you're in if you don't have people around you.
Yeah.
If people can push past that and recognize that I need help and seek out coaches, mentors that can help them get to where they're going, it's life-changing for them. And I'll give you an example. I have somebody that I'm coaching that's a financial advisor, and she is just such a success story. She has one of the so you mentioned limiting beliefs earlier. She kept telling herself, because she was a financial advisor, she was young, 26 years old, that she couldn't make it as a financial advisor, and she was a female. So two limiting beliefs. I coached her through those. Now she is hitting levels that she never thought she would hit in 5 years, that she's hitting in less than 2.
Awesome.
Even to the point to where her dad stood up at one point, he was a financial planner as well, and said, he gave me the best testimonial that I received. He was like, Brad has helped her so much. But it wasn't me, it was her implementing and me holding her accountable.
That's awesome. I believe everybody needs a coach in business and in life. One of my coaches, Coach Michael Burt, says that it almost just rolls off the cuff. I too, like you, since 2014, have always invested in a coach. I've either had a coach or a mentor, and coaching typically I'm investing in. Mentors typically, your trading services. But I've had a coach or a mentor, right? Back in the early days, I had to have mentors because I couldn't afford coaches. And for me, I believe you can have coaches for multiple areas of your life, right? You can have financial coaches, you can have spiritual coaches, relationship coaches, business coaches, health and wellness, all these things, right? Do you have any tips or tricks? Because you like myself, we've had multiple coaches. Do you have any tips or tricks that you follow when you're looking to choose your next coach?
I want to work with a coach who has been where I want to go.
Perfect. Same. I mean, that's exactly, it's like, what am I trying to achieve? Right now, I'm training in this moment, I'm training for an Ironman, right? Where I'm going to go swim 2.4 miles. I'm going to bike 112 miles and then run a full marathon at the end, right? And it's a big, massive endeavor. It's not business related. It's not even home related. It's fitness related. So the first thing I did was I went to my Rolodex of people and said, who has already achieved this? Who's already done it? And let's be best friends. Can I invest in you, or can we be best friends because you know a thing or two, because you've seen a thing or two? And I think we follow that same thing. So in business, find that person who's already achieved what it is you want to do. And in your personal life, same thing. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, all I got to do is find the person who's already done it. And then for me, I'm at a point now where we've been blessed. It's pay them whatever amount you got to pay them so you can avoid the trials and tribulations that they had to go through. We're talking about success, right? I mean, you've went from the rags to riches. You're now successful, happy, healthy, prosperous, multiple successful companies, multiple awards. I mean, you've earned basically every single award you can. Let's talk about this idea, the concept, and the definition of success. In your early years, let's go back to fifth grade, success meant something to you. When you first left corporate to go to start your own entrepreneurship endeavors, success meant something to you. But how has your definition changed? Like, let's go from there to now. Like, how has your definition of success changed from the early years? And then what does success mean to you today?
It's a great question. One thing that I'm realizing, so yes, and I've achieved some things in life, and I mean it's just literally. So I want to go back to how did it happen? It's because it went back to my success started in the trailer park because I learned work ethic. And you and I've talked about this. Like, hey, how do people get successful? You implement. Like,
That's
yeah,
right.
my coach holds me accountable, and I know that when I jump on those calls, success. What is your definition of success? So for me, when I went to Jesse's house for the first time, it was materialistic things. It was like, oh wow, look at all this stuff that I have.
That's right.
As I've gotten older, I look and I'm like, well, look, I was still successful when I lived in the mobile home park. My grandfather was a very successful man because even though the financial aspect wasn't there, he was surrounded by his family. And same for my grandmother. And both of them have passed on. So it's like, and I'm grateful that I was able to, spend so much time with them. So it's not always about the money, which the world tells us it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
look, money's great to have. It allows for the vacations and different things. But, when we look at success, I mean, the Ziglar Wheel of Life popped into mind. Jacob, success for you right now, you just laid it. I mean, yeah, you've got the different success in different areas, right?
Yeah.
We'll call it the wellness or the physical spoke. Like
Yeah.
you're ramping that up so you complete this marathon.
That's right.
Starting the Salem Speakers Bureau.
That's right.
That's the financial piece, and that's the career spoke. When you go speak for free, I guess you're still doing that at times. You're going
With
to
churches.
churches,
That's right.
that's
That's
filling up
right.
the spiritual spoke.
That's right.
This morning I had a conversation with a fellow business owner that I was able to pray over him and his business. That fills me up in my spiritual spoke.
That's right.
When I'm coaching, that helps to create success in that area where I'm able to help other people. So, I know I'm not answering your question, but it's
You're answering it.
intentional well, good, because the world tells us money, 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 money. Do you know what the saddest song that I ever listened to was?
What's that?
Cats in the Cradle.
And the silver spoon. That's right.
That song is about a man
That's right.
who goes out for money, 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 money. And then as he gets to an adult, every chance he gets, he pushes off being able to spend time with his kids. And then when he gets older, nobody's there for him.
Yeah.
And every day I count my wins. And so yesterday, what did my wins look like? What did success look like for Brad Horner yesterday? I went to CrossFit, played basketball with my son, took my daughter to ice cream. Sunday, I walked with my other daughter, my college age daughter we went on a walk. Then I had dinner with family, went swimming with my family. None of that was money related.
That's right. That's right.
And so when we talk about success, yes, the money's great, but it's understanding. I'm going to point to Tom's book. The first chapter in Tom's book is it starts with why.
Yeah.
What's the why? And the why wasn't the money. And the money does help us do things, yes. but it's the people behind it that we care about. It's you and your 3 girls, right?
Right.
And your wife, and spending time with them, man. I know what drives you, dude.
That's
Same
right.
thing that drives me, my family.
That's
At
right.
the end of the day, numbers in a bank account don't matter if you don't have people to share it with.
That's right. Yeah, that's powerful. We could almost begin to wrap up there. And so, Bradley, I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here to pour into our listeners as we edit this thing up and post it on the podcast, put it on YouTube and all the socials around the world. I want to thank you for your commitment to serve other people. One thing that really stands out to me from your story is that where you start does not have to determine where you finish. A kid growing up in a mobile home park, a business owner, a leader, a coach, a mentor, and ultimately somebody who came full circle and proved that circumstances don't define destiny. So for everyone listening today, remember this, that your current situation is not your final destination. Stay committed, stay coachable, stay consistent, and keep moving forward. And if I could say most of all as well, find yourself someone like Bradley or Bradley Horner himself to coach you, to help you be more, do more, and have more. Because ultimately a coach is the best cheat code to every area of life, somebody who can help you avoid the pitfalls of life. And so Bradley, as we wrap up here, if somebody did want to reach out to you for coaching or speaking or anything else, maybe they just want to follow you, what is the best place for somebody to learn more about you or to connect with you today?
Yeah, so it's all the major social media channels, most of them. So LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm on those platforms. Go to my website, bradleyhorner.com. You can shoot me an email, brad@bradleyhorner.com. And then all my contact information's there. And, Jacob, before we close out, dude, for your listeners, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I appreciate the presence of you in my life. So
Well, thank you, my friend. That means the world to me. Guys, for those listening, as I've already said, I couldn't recommend Bradley Horner any more highly as a coach, as a speaker. Honored to have him on my show here today. Thank you for joining us for an episode of the Salem Speakers Podcast, and we'll see you next time.